Our lead story of the day is regarding Donald Trump's tax returns finally being released. Yes, the day has come, and we're going to be breaking it down here for you, folks. We got a lot of new subscribers here, so many of you may not know this, but before I became a teacher, I was in the field of public accounting, spending most of that time in taxation and then a little bit of time in assurance and advisory. But I know a little bit about what's going on here. I haven't read this article. I know nothing about Donald Trump's tax returns. We're going to be breaking it down. You're going to get a real-time reaction from me. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And with that being said, former President Donald Trump repeatedly paid little or nothing in federal income taxes between 2015 and 2020, despite reporting millions in earnings. Documents released Tuesday night by House Democrats said Trump frequently made tens of millions of dollars annually during that period, but he was able to whittle away his tax bill by claiming steep losses that offset that income. Notify the newspapers, folks. This is headline news. This is page one. Folks, this is a nothing burger, okay? We see this all the time as accountants. You don't even have to be a millionaire to capitalize on this, okay? Everybody does it. Everybody utilizes it. But because it's Donald Trump, we got to make a big deal over it because he makes millions of dollars. He's a billionaire. He doesn't pay anything in taxes. In 2016, he paid $750. 2017, he paid $750. And then in 2020, he paid nothing. And it was probably because I would imagine maybe his income dropped or he had more deductions, whatever it may be, that resulted in that offset of his losses and his income. This is something that the Congress created in the tax code, tax law, that us as accountants go and utilize and just report and take care of it for the client. Trump doesn't do his own taxes. He pays guys a lot of money, like what I used to do it for him. Now, his tax return is probably a doozy because he got a lot of property. He has a lot of transactions, a lot of stuff going on. So he's paying some buku bucks to get the stuff done. But the point is here that these progressive leftists know nothing about taxes. They know nothing about business. You get these politicians that know nothing about business either. Somebody did a study one time and virtually found that almost everybody in the Democrat Party had never ran a business and know nothing about business, didn't even go to school for business, but yet they're trying to sit there and tell business owners what to do about their business. It's totally head-spinning, mind-blowing. Point is, this is nothing. We see this all the time. He's just following the law, following the tax code. There's no loophole here, okay? You're going to hear this all the time. And you guys, if you can learn anything from today's episode, please know when somebody uses the word loophole, please know that they're an idiot, okay? There are no loopholes. We're just reporters as accountants. Congress created a law. There's a tax code, tax law. There's a bunch of books in our firm or our conference room, wherever you may have them. We can go look up what to do, and then we just follow that and do it. There's no loophole. It's not like you're getting around something. It's just there for us to do. I'm not saying people don't break the law, and there aren't people that have cooked the books in the past, like Enron and Arthur Anderson back in the day and all that stuff. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but this is a nothing burger, folks. He's just following the law here. It goes on to say, and though the IRS has a long-standing policy of automatically auditing every president, Democrats say the agency did not begin vetting Trump's filings until they began asking about them in 2019. Who cares? Trump frequently claimed he was under contentious audits by the IRS to justify his refusal to voluntarily disclose his taxes, which snapped a long-standing tradition of presidents and White House contenders volunteering their returns. As an accountant or prior accountants, I never understood this aspect of why people treat tax returns from presidents as such a big deal, or even politicians. Now, you could find out certain information in terms of like how much they contributed, who they contributed to. You know, you could find out certain information, kind of like we do with Black Lives Matter, kind of exposing why they're giving all this money to LGBTQ centers or businesses. Some of them aren't even, seems like they're fictitious, they're not even real. So there's things that can come out from it. But by and large, you're not really getting that much information that tells you about the individual. Mostly you're getting told what the accountant reported based on the individual, and some things are even left out. I mean, you could have an individual, meaning like say somebody like Donald Trump, literally donate tens of millions of dollars and never be reported on their tax return. Maybe it was of no benefit to them. Maybe they didn't want it to be disclosed. Maybe they wanted to do it behind closed doors because of their faith. Whatever it may be, it really doesn't tell you that much. So I just never understood the aspect of like why Americans just in general, or just American citizens and politicians push this so hard. It's really nothing. The revelations, which came after House Democrats voted Tuesday to make Trump's returns public, marks the culmination of the long-running mystery of what's in his filings, something he's fought for years in court to conceal. It promises to create yet another controversy for the scandal-plagued Trump. It's not scandal-plagued Trump. You guys are just going after him literally ever since he went down the escalator. Leave the guy alone. I mean, for the love of God, the fact that he's not behind bars, he's like the cleanest person you've ever met in your entire life. He's literally had the entire government of the United States down his throat since day one, and you haven't found anything. Literally nothing. And now you're complaining because he took business losses year after year, which he's allowed to do, and thus didn't owe anything in taxes. You're going to complain about that? By the way, he did pay $1 million in taxes. We'll get there in one moment. It promises to create yet another controversy for the scandal-plagued Trump, one that is sure to shadow his bid to return to the White House and raise uncomfortable questions for his fellow Americans. You know, it's uncomfortable because you got a lot of politicians, you got a lot of knuckleheads that know nothing about taxes, which is why they're making this a big deal, which I'm telling you right now is not a big deal. Just because I'm a Trump supporter, if this was Biden, I would tell you it's not a big deal. It's nothing, you guys. It's literally nothing. It also puts a spotlight on the IRS as well, including a recent departed commissioner, and its promise to impartially administer the tax code. At the same time, it is a last-minute victory for Democrats, particularly Ways and Means Chair Richard Neal, who waged a 3.5-year court battle for the returns, but whose enthusiasm for the fight was often questioned by his party liberal wing. Neal obtained the returns just last month after the Supreme Court declined to block the release to him, and Democrats raced to get the information out before they slipped into the minority in the House on January 3rd. Democrats said it would take some time to scrub the filings of Trump's personal information, such as his social security number and addresses, but that the returns would be released in the days to come. I love how they put such as his social security number and his addresses, which is literally on the front page of your 1040. So I don't understand why they're talking about scrubbing Trump's tax filings as if that's something hard to find. It just shows you these idiots know nothing. Like, it's literally on page 1 of your 1040. Depending on the state, it'll be on your 542. I don't know. California's a 540 for the state, if anybody wants to know the number. But they're making this a big deal as if it's something that you need to look through and like scrub through. Give me a break. But Democrats also asked the Joint Committee on Taxation, a nonpartisan office of tax lawyers and economists, to advise lawmakers on tax issues, to examine Trump's filings, and lawmakers released the agency's findings along with their own report on the IRS audit system. Though Trump has cultivated an image of a widely successful businessman and bragged about paying little in taxes, he appears to do that mostly by reporting big losses. So all of a sudden you're a failure as a businessman because maybe one of your businesses, or you had some sort of business that failed one year and ultimately recouped in another year. And so you have income, you have some profit there, but it's just being offset by those losses. You have a lot of businesses, folks, that just took a shellacking during COVID-19 because the government locked everybody down. So because those businesses took a loss, are all of a sudden those failure businessmen and women? Is that what we're going with here? It's so stupid. If anything I'm highlighting here, it's just all stupidness that we're making this such a big deal. In 2015, JCT said Trump reported making more than $50 million, pretty damn good in my opinion, through a combination of capital gains, interest, dividends, and other earnings. So it sounds like he has a lot of investments, obviously capital gains, which I think it's taxed at 20%, which is another avenue of what goes into this, is because if you say had capital gains from stocks that you sold, say it was like $400,000, what 20% of that would be roughly you're paying $50,000 in capital gains tax. Versus if you had a career, like an actual job paying out a W-2 for $400,000, you're going to be paying a lot more tax on that $400,000 than you would because it's a capital gains tax if you were to just cash out through, say, that stock option. So it is treated differently by the code, but they're going to complain about that too, I'm sure. That was offset, though, by more than $85 million in reported losses. He was hit by the alternative minimum tax. We call that AMT as well. It's almost like a net. I don't want to get into it because it's actually really complicated. But really, it's just a levy that's designed to make it harder for the rich to zero out their tax bills at the end of the day. It generated a $641,000 tax bill. The following year, he reported making $30 million, but also claimed $60 million in losses. He was dinged again by AMT that year, though he still ended up owing $750. In other years, check this out, Trump paid more. In 2018, he had far fewer losses to report and ended up paying almost $1 million, folks. You can live your entire life and never pay $1 million in taxes. And also, I'd like to point out the whole fact of him paying $750 one year, $750 another year, $1 million another year, zero in like a following year in 2020. Folks, this guy owns property. He builds sky rises. The cement alone, the metal alone, the steel to build these things, he pays more in tax alone in that than you would your entire life. But people, for some reason, get up in arms over this stuff. I don't give a crap that it's Trump. It could be any politician, Biden or whatever. They pay taxes, folks. A lot of taxes. And just because we don't see that as the end result doesn't mean that they don't or do. It's just the way the numbers work out, and that's the end calculation. If Congress doesn't like it, then change it. For the love of God, then change it. I hope they don't, because who the hell wants to pay taxes? We'll get to segment 2. We'll see where all the money's going because they just spent over $1 trillion in the span of all this inflation, and it's going to a bunch of foo-foo stuff, a bunch of discretionary spending. We'll get to it, folks. Wait till the second segment. It's going to piss you off and make your head spin. Why would you want to give your money to a bunch of these knuckleheads, huh? So praise Trump for not owing any taxes, for the love of God. The IRS has a policy dating to the Nixon administration of automatically vetting every president's returns, something designed to both assure the public that the tax system is being administered equitably and also to spare the IRS from having to make politically fraught decisions over which presidents to audit. Little is known publicly about how the process works. That is true. There's about 3 or 4 ways that an audit can be conducted that we kind of know about. But it says here in 1998, law makes White House meddling in audits a felony. Neal told reporters that he had not come across evidence that Trump had tried to influence the agency when it came to examining his taxes. The super rich are typically subject to relatively high audit rates. The IRS says it examined 8.7% of those who made more than $10 million in 2019. People in the top 0.01%, making sure they actually got that right because that is an extremely low number, percent of incomes make more than $7.4 million in 2020, paid an average tax rate of 25%. 1/4 of it, folks, 1/4 of their earnings gone, and it's still not enough for people. It's still not enough for these progressive leftists. The average rate that year for everyone was 13.6. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden reported paying 24.6% in taxes. It is highly unusual for lawmakers to forcibly release private tax information, and Trump was not legally required to disclose his taxes. But he defied a decades-old tradition of presidents volunteering their filings. So we're going to force you anyways, Mr. President. We're going to force you to release these because we don't like you, and we want to do everything we can to diminish your public image. I mean, it's so sick. It's so sick what this government's done to this man. So these filings, incensing congressional Democrats who seized his returns under a century-old law, allowing the chairs of Congress's tax committees to examine anyone's private tax information. Many Democrats said the public not only had a right to know about Trump's finances, they also said they wanted to know how vigorously the IRS was questioning the president's returns. As if like the president, or excuse me, the IRS is backing Donald Trump. As if our own government wasn't out to get the guy. I mean, look at what the government's done with freaking Twitter. Look what the government's done in freaking paying Twitter to censor things. Like, I don't know, the Hunter Biden laptop. That was just ousted the other day in like part 8 or 9 of the Twitter documents, which I posted on the community tab. If you're not familiar with that, folks, literally the FBI, our own government, told Twitter that basically tell the American citizens and politicians and everybody else that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake, that it wasn't real, even though they knew that it was in fact real and that it wasn't fake. So this is the people that Democrats are going like, we got to watch the IRS because they might be helping Donald Trump. The same IRS that Obama utilized to go after the political opponents. No, yeah, that same IRS. It all makes sense, right, folks? It all makes sense. Many Democrats said the public not only had a right to know about Trump's finances, they don't have any right, folks. He's a private citizen. They don't have any right. And again, this whole thing about throwing out tax returns, it's a bunch of hocus pocus. It's a bunch of foo-foo. Democrats got his personal returns as well as a handful of business filings from 2015 to 2020, mostly coinciding with Trump's time in office. Again, it's a nothing burger, folks. Again, you can find things from these returns in terms of where they're contributing their money, where they're putting it at, like we saw Black Lives Matter, and you can find some sort of information. But other than that, you're not really going to get anything out of this. It's more of a political stunt than anything, and kind of capitalizing on American citizens' ignorance of taxation, which a lot of people have, to make it a big deal when in fact it's not. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.